Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Colerain Township Board of Zoning Appeals meeting for March 27th, 2019. We'll just start with we'll call the meeting to order and we'll rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so for anyone who's not familiar with the way the Board of Zoning Appeals works, we have a brief explanation. The following is a procedure for a hearing on appeals for this evening. The appeals will be heard first, and then other business of the board will be conducted. Once your appeal has been heard, you may stay, but you're not required to. All of those who wish to testify or speak before the board must be sworn in first, and we ask that you speak from the podium, being that the proceedings are being transcribed, and we have to make sure that everything that is going to be a part of the record will be clearly heard. When you address this board, please provide your name, address for the record. Speak directly into the microphone. Again, it's being recorded and transcribed. If you do not, then your input may not be recorded and become a part of the record. All who testify may be subject to cross-examination by an attorney. All documents, photographs, and other physical evidence presented will be accepted by the board unless withdrawn by the offerer or an objection is made as to the admissibility of the document, photograph, or other physical evidence. The chairperson will rule as to whether those items being offered will be accepted or rejected. The zoning administrator and the staff members will present a brief summary or statement of each appeal. The appellant will then be given an opportunity to be heard, speak and present their evidence and their presentation. Anyone in favor of the appeal will be given an opportunity to speak. Anyone opposing the appeal will also be given an opportunity to speak and present their evidence. Depending upon the circumstances, this board may impose reasonable limitations that probably, for anyone speaking before the board, that's probably not going to be an issue this evening because we only have one case. After the presentation of both sides of each case, the public portion of the input for that case will then be closed. Any board member may then ask questions of anyone who has spoken or make comments on the appeal. After this discussion, a motion and a second will be made by the board to either approve or deny the appeal. And we acknowledge that the issues before the board can be heated and sometimes emotional. However, no disruptive behavior of any type will be tolerated. The chairperson does have the right to excuse anyone who is being disruptive. And just a brief overview of the primary functions of the Board of Zoning Appeal, or BZA. We hear appeals from the administrative interpretation of the zoning code, such as the administrative denial of a zoning permit. We hear requests for zoning variances, conditional uses, and expansion or changes to non-conforming uses or buildings. We've already gone over the agenda and housekeeping. And so, with that being said, may we have a roll call of the members?
Mr. Reiniger?
Here.
Mr. Barthold?
Here.
Mr. Hill?
Present.
Mr. Roberto?
Yeah, here.
Ms. Wilson?
Present. Thank you. Next on the agenda, we will be swearing in an alternate member of the Board of Zoning Appeals. Mr. Shoup?
I, Mark Shoup, solemnly swear
I, Mark Shupp, solemnly swear
that I will uphold the Constitution and laws of the United States of America,
that I will uphold the Constitution and laws of the United States of America,
the Constitution and laws of the State of Ohio,
the Constitution and laws of the State of Ohio,
and the laws and resolutions of Colerain Township,
and the laws and resolutions of Colerain Township,
and to the best of my ability will faithfully discharge
and to the best of my ability will faithfully discharge
the duties of an alternate member of the Board of Zoning Appeals
the duties of the alternate member of the Board of Zoning Appeals
in and for Colerain Township, Hamilton County, State of Ohio, so help me God.
The Board of Zoning Appeals in and for Colerain Township, Hamilton County, State of Ohio, so help me God.
I will notarize your signature on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have one case today, BZA. I'm sorry.
Swear in first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. For anyone who will be testifying before the Board of Zoning Appeals today, would you please stand and raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth before the Board of Zoning Appeals? If so, say I do.
I do.
Thank you. Now, we have one case today, BZA 2019-002, request for a conditional use permit for no parking. I'll do the location of everything. Location is at 9845 Prechtel Road, am I saying that right? Pebble Creek Golf Course. Applicant owner is Pebble Creek Golf LLC. Does staff have a presentation?
Yes, this application has been submitted by Scott Huber with Abercrombie Associates on behalf of the property owner, Pebble Creek Golf LLC. They are requesting a conditional use permit for the property at 9845 Prechtel, which is a golf pro shop. This property is zoned single-family residential, and private recreational facilities are a conditional use within that zone classification, subject to review and approval by the Board of Zoning Appeals. This particular property is located north of 275, west of Colerain Avenue. Prechtel runs south off of Dry Ridge Road. This is a aerial photograph. The property contains a 18-hole golf course and a clubhouse. It has a restaurant, meeting facilities, and parking. The original PUD for Pebble Creek was zoned PDR, Planned Development Residential, and it contained also single-family homes which backed onto the golf course. In about 2004, there was an application to add the pro shop, and rather than add it in geographically to the PDR, it was approved as a conditional use and sort of attached to the golf course. Normally, when you enlarge a planned development, it's a actual zoning map amendment. You have to go through a preliminary and final development plan. I'm guessing, I don't have any evidence in the file, but I'm guessing that this is a much shorter route to get the clubhouse built than having to go through the whole zoning amendment process. So that's probably why it was done in this manner. Zoning map, you can see the zoning line between the PDR and the R3, which is where this property is. This also shows some of the single-family houses towards the bottom. That's part of the development. This particular property back in 2004 contained a single-family house, and that was demolished and then redeveloped for this purpose. The land behind it at that point was a single tract, undeveloped, and since then it was subdivided into flag lots on a private drive. That's Island View Drive. And all those lines that you see north of this clubhouse, those are kind of the panhandle flags for all of those individual lots. And I point that out basically to say it's really not developable property. You're not going to see a single family house directly north of this property because of all those panhandles. Another aerial view shows when this had a putting green. The putting green looks like it's kind of gone by the wayside in some of the newer photos. You can also see there's quite a bit of parking surrounding the main building. And I'm guessing the main building probably contained the pro shop functions at the time that this golf course opened. And the parking was more oriented towards that main building. Oddly enough, in 2004, when this pro shop was approved, there was a condition specifically that there not be additional parking with the pro shop. I couldn't find any explanation in the minutes. I went back through all the records, and it was pretty silent, although it was a part of the staff recommendation in 2004. It could be, and I'm just sort of surmising, that there was the potential to have a single-family house directly adjacent to the north at that time, because that preceded when that was divided. But I really can't say for certain why that was a condition. Even at the public hearing, there were no objections or anything by surrounding property owners. This is more street level. And this is the actual plan that has been submitted. The 21 parking spaces do meet the design requirements for a non-commercial parking lot, all the dimension requirements. The plan that they're designating does call for a streetscape buffer, which is normally required on commercial parking lots between the street and the parking lot. They're also calling for that buffer along the north property line, which is basically between the private drive and the parking lot. And staff would agree that that's probably a good idea to have in. That's the area shaded in green. Our zoning standards for a streetscape buffer is a shade tree every 35 feet and 3 shrubs for every 35 feet of frontage. So that would be filled in with some vegetation. Another view, you can see the nearest single-family house to the rear is separated by some kind of a tree line, is also quite a bit lower in elevation. This is a view looking from that neighboring house back up to the pro shop. Pro shop is actually 2 levels in the back, 2 stories. Another street view. This is from that private island view. Threw in a few photographs from their website just because they're a lot prettier than the photographs I take out in the field. It's really quite scenic out there, considering how close it is to Colerain Avenue and 275. It feels like a little far apart. This is the pro shop itself, and this is the main restaurant clubhouse area. And this is it from the back, seen from the golf course. Staffers reviewed this and made the following findings. The use is a conditional use permitted by the Board of Zoning Appeals in the district where it's located. Second, the use is in accordance with the objectives of the Pebble Creek Dry Ridge Character Area of Colerain Township Comprehensive Plan and Zoning Resolution. Third, the conditional use will not substantially or permanently injure the appropriate use of the neighboring properties if approved with reasonable restrictions to mitigate the more intensive use of the property, including auto headlight screening. Otherwise, the use would serve the public convenience and welfare. And fourth, will not create excessive requirements at public cost for the public facilities and services, and will not be detrimental to the economic welfare of the community. Staff's recommendation is for approval of the conditional use with the requirement of the landscape buffering on the north along Island View Lane frontage and along Pretchell Road. Are there any questions regarding this proposal?
Any questions? Is the applicant present? If you would approach the podium, please, and give us your presentation.
Good evening. My name is Scott Huber. I'm the site civil engineer with Abercrombie & Associates, 3377 Compton Road, Suite 120, 45251. Thank you for hearing this case tonight. We're in agreement with Mr. Kohler's presentation. It was very thorough and explained a lot of the history and a lot of the points about the project. We're in agreement with that. We also have a copy of his staff report and we are in agreement with his staff findings and staff recommendation. So really what we're here tonight is just ask for approval to install this parking lot here. Basically, it's just a more proximate parking lot to the pro shop and to the restaurant building there. Mr. Falacci is here. Mike Falacci is the owner, and he's received some requests from his guests that there's no parking within the reasonable vicinity of the pro shop and the restaurant, and so he's trying to accommodate the guests. So that's why we're here tonight, is ask for approval to install the parking lot there. So like I said, we're in agreement with the findings. We tried to show on the plan the landscape buffering. We realized that the streetscape buffer along Pretzel Road and along Island View Drive there, that's important. So we recognize that and we're willing to do that. So that concludes my presentation. I can answer any questions, and Mr. Falacci is also here for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else present who wants to speak for the appeal? Seeing none, is there anyone present who's speaking in opposition to the appeal? Seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public portion of the hearing?
I'll make a motion to close the public portion.
I'll second.
It's been motioned and seconded. May we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Reiniger?
Aye.
Mr. Bartold?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. Roberto?
Aye.
Ms. Wilson?
Aye. I'll start with Mr. Hill. Do you have any questions for the applicant?
No questions. I think this is a good idea. It's a great plan. I don't see any issues with it.
Mr. Bartold?
I had a question. I thought I read somewhere, now I can't find it. The type of landscaping, and is it per the township regulations? Wasn't it in here somewhere? I thought I noticed it.
Actually,
On the
we
back?
don't
Oh,
have a
okay.
lot of detail on what the landscaping would be, but
Yeah.
if it is a streetscape landscape.
I was just curious if the California privet is a shrub, a deciduous tree? Is it
It's a shrub that keeps its leaves year-round.
year-round?
Yeah.
Okay. So we don't have any issues then with the type of plant they're proposing? All right. And then, well, again, it's one of those situations where unfortunately it's a dead-end parking lot, so if it's full and I pull in, I'm kind of stuck. And I don't know how to solve that. And if I'm in the very last parking space, there's no T-shaped backup for the last two spots to the north. I don't know if we would allow a little T bit of paving to go into the buffer so that cars could pull out of those last two spots. I'm just curious. It's just a question. I don't know who would answer it, but.
Mr. Huber, would you like to address that question?
Well, yes, I mean, I agree that it is a tight parking lot. We're trying to be conscious of the neighbor. We know that there's residents to the north and to the west. So we're trying to, not have a 40-space parking lot or anything like that. And similarly with the little bump out like you're requesting, it was a juggle between parking spaces and 15-foot landscape buffer. It was a coin flip, so I went with the landscape buffer. But if you're willing to make a reduction in that area, we can put in a little 5-foot
Right,
bump
yeah.
out where you can maneuver.
If they did that, would that create a variance of some sort?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And with that said, we require the landscape buffer between public streets. And so actually the one to the north technically is not even a required buffer because it's not a public street.
But if they did a 5-foot section of pavement past or in that buffer area, they're into the area that they're not allowed to be in, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm just wondering, because again, I don't know if it'll ever fill up 100%, but, you know, just, it might be hard to get out of those spaces. So it's really up to the users if they're okay, you know. If I'm there golfing, I guess I just deal with it. But
What about eliminating one spot? If you eliminate one of those
One of
spots,
those?
yeah.
Well, we'd have to eliminate two to get, you know, if we wanted to have the 5-foot turnaround outside of the 15-foot buffer, we would have to eliminate 2 parking spaces.
Well, I think he's saying you eliminate one and you stripe it like no parking. So if
Yeah.
I'm in the other one opposite of it, you just back up.
Just back into it.
Yeah.
Make it 20 spaces.
I mean, that seems
know.
reasonable, yes. we can do
Again,
that.
it's a procedural thing that I guess we can't dictate. I'm just thinking logically if I'm using the space. And if I've had a bad day on the golf course, I might be irritated because my balls are in the water.
Maybe if I could give you just a little bit of comfort that those parking stalls are 19 feet long, and there is an ability to have overhang on both sides. So really those cars, if they put their tires right on the curb, you know, they're probably 2 to 2.5 feet overhanging the curb. So, you know, maybe those parking stalls are a little deeper than
Right.
might be needed, you know, but, yeah, I understand your
Yeah.
point.
I'm just thinking of a
Big
Ford
truck,
pickup truck
right,
trying to get out of there if it's all full.
yep,
But,
yep.
and then other than that, I guess, so there will be golf carts in this parking lot?
He's not been sworn in.
Been sworn in. You have to be sworn in if you'd like to. You could raise your right hand. You swear or affirm that everything you say before the Board of Zoning Appeals will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes. Okay, and if you could state your name and your address.
Mike Falaci, 9799 Prechtel Road.
Okay, thank you. You may go ahead.
I would say, yeah, there will be times when there might be carts going over there in the morning, you know, when the golfers are there. I would say most of the time it's going to be occupied by restaurant guests.
I was just curious, again, if there's golf carts on the public road. I'm assuming they would have to be on the public road to get to this parking lot?
No,
No?
there's a path that goes from the front of the pro shop that will go around to the
To the new parking lot?
new parking lot. Yeah.
All right, I don't know if we had that on our plans or not, but I was just curious if it's a concern.
Kind of see that pavement that's except from the backside.
On the left of the building?
But it falls short in our drawing, though.
Okay. I was just raising that if it was any kind of concern with the township, if they were going to be physically having to go out onto the public road, but it looks like they don't. And I think those are my only questions.
Thank you, Mr. Bartolt. Mr. Reininger, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I was digressing. A question, is there a requirement for a catch basin for this parking lot?
Yeah, it's just the way the grades are out there. We need to collect stormwater. So we're going to collect that into a catch basin and then pipe that into an existing system that's already on the property.
The one aerial photograph we have shows parking directly in front, like 6 cars are directly in front of the pro shop. Is that actually going to be the access way to the new parking surface? This is what I'm referring to.
Yes, I think that's the problem that they're having there is they have these cars that are here and it's not enough parking. And so we're going to have the main access point be through here and then that'll peel off and go into the other parking.
Okay. And as I recall your comments, you are agreeable to the buffer on Prechtel Road as well as the north side of the parking lot,
Correct, yes.
to the specifications that we've got.
Well, I mean, we submitted the landscape plan. I'm assuming that was, okay,
Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
yes.
That's fine. No other questions. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Roberto?
I didn't notice any lighting, so there's not going to be lighting in this lot?
Correct, there's no site lighting, correct.
Okay. And no further questions?
So the questions?
Do you have any?
I don't have any questions. So is there a motion to approve the?
I'll make a motion to approve, subject to staff conditions.
I will second that.
Okay, then, motion seconded, any discussion? No discussion? May I have a roll call?
Mr. Reiniger?
Aye.
Mr. Bertolt?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. Roberto?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Aye. Your appeal has been approved, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Good luck.
you.
You're very welcome. See, we have no unfinished business. Next item on the list is approval of the minutes from February 27th, 2019. Has everyone had an opportunity to read them?
Yes.
Any corrections, edits?
No, ma'am.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Oh, roll call, please.
Mr. Reiniger?
Aye.
Mr. Bertolt?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. Roberto?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Aye. Okay. Excuse me. Next meeting is May 27th, 2019. We have no administrative matters today, so do I have a motion to adjourn for the day?
So moved.
I'll second.
Roll call?
Mr. Reiniger?
Aye.
Mr. Bertolt?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. Roberto?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Aye. Do I stand the gavel?